I was just gonna say it looks like it still wants to complete that move. I don't know if it's sharing on the live stream, but I've got this little channel the past several months just following that. Honestly, they're not really buying, they're actually selling the S&P, but I think they're trying to take tech stocks up to the probably the 14,000 level, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's a crazy, it's a crazy breakout there higher on the NASDAQ. Well, not a breakout, but, you know, retesting those highs, it looks like, and 14,000, it's knocking on the door. I mean, it's an impressive run for indices. I think I was mentioning this just before you guys joined us, that I think NASDAQ, I'm not necessarily looking to buy it personally. I think that there's, you know, probably some patience is in order for a pullback or something like that. There's a lot of hype. I listened to, I was in the gym this weekend, getting huge. And while I was getting huge, I was listening to, I was listening to CNBC, and they were talking about consistently the AI. Like I could not go, it was like a 30-second window without talking to AI. It just kept going and going. I think it's a real strong point nonetheless, but how high can it go in the short term? We'll have to see. I'm not looking to short, but I am trying to patiently wait for pullbacks. Ivan, what do you think on the indices this morning?
Surprising. I think that's the word. I would actually imagine during or under this current market conditions that they would actually range or go lower before then spiking up when the ceiling negotiations would be concluded. The other thing is that was it 7 weeks in a row that the money supply that they're still kind of under the radar doing QE. So yeah, surprise.
Did you know that you can watch Trader Nick live stream every morning, Monday through Friday, with guests from all around the world? Each morning, right here on the A1 Trading YouTube channel, we put on a live show where Trader Nick, along with some very special guests, go over their charts and ideas for every kind of asset. We do a live reaction to news drops and do analysis immediately following. You never know what's going to happen during one of our streams. So come be a part of the live stream community. You can find our live streaming schedule on the A1 Trading Twitter account each week, so you never miss a news event.
Yeah, and that's been sort of the story with all this banking stuff. Is I've heard that several times. The low key QE, right? They're being very, very subliminal about it, and of course the equities market loves that. And it's been interesting. It's like you said with the debt ceiling concerns, and that, you know, there was a resurfacing of that concern on Friday, a little bit of a pop on the dollar, and then a pop on gold as well. But we'll have to see where that goes. I think, you know, it's hard to just looking at this NASDAQ, it's hard to deny how bullish this thing looks. So yeah, indices, like I said, definitely looking for pullbacks personally. If I can get something, maybe 13,600, it's conservative. It's a little bit maybe too patient, but I don't want to chase here, and I'm watching it myself. So Frank, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the indices to trade? Are you looking at gold? Are you looking at currency pairs? What are your focuses?
Kind of staying away from indices right now. Last week I was talking about limited upside, and I still think that it's probably not going to go too much higher for the stock market, at least, before we see like a considerable pullback and maybe even like lower lows before it, you know, ranges back upward. But in the meantime, I'm looking at yen pairs because I'm very short biased yen. So I've been in this one for a little bit, euro yen, and honestly, it's looking pretty good so far. So if it were to pull back at any point, like back towards the lows of where it bounced several times, and maybe even scale in further. But yeah, basically short yen. Euro's now the strongest pair on Smart Money Tracker, so I like this the most. I'm also in GBP CAD, which is not doing anything for me. I'm hovering a little bit at a loss, but you know, if the past several days been going back and forth, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, mostly, in my opinion, I'm just focusing on yen right now. So that's
okay. And I've got something I want to show you while you mentioned that. We talked about it briefly earlier, but just to show on my end on the COT data side, the Japanese yen, here's your update. We do this almost every Monday. We just take a look at the COT reports together. And for those of you guys, like we said earlier, this tracks the commitment of traders, large speculators, what they are doing in the markets. And the most recent reporting shows that the Japanese yen continues to be very, very much the short favorite. Now they did decrease their short positions. They also decreased their long positions. But I think at the end of the day, where the dust settles is they're still very much 78%. I'm sorry, I'm looking at euro. The euro, they changed their short ratio and they actually changed their long ratio. So that's actually pretty bullish euro. On the yen side, though, they increased their short ratio by 11,000 additional contracts. So they increased shorts. They also increased longs at a slightly less amount, still putting us at 76% short ratio there for the Japanese yen. And to your point about the euro yen specifically, you're taking the strongest buy by institutional traders and you're crossing it against the strongest sell currently by institutional traders, which is that yen. So very interesting to just see where that positioning goes week to week. We try and keep an eye on that as that euro yen just looks increasingly divergent here. Institutional traders betting heavily on the euro and very light long position, even heavy short positions on the Japanese yen. Ivan, I know you were talking a little bit about yen pairs last week. What are you looking at? Are you still looking at euro yen, pound yen at all?
I wish I did. Well, I'm getting more focused on dollar pairs now, but just hit my radar. I don't know, maybe I should go back to sleep and come back tomorrow and wake up when the market is low around, I can buy it back up again. But in my world, it didn't come back down to a significant support that I wanted to use, like 148.50. So I was left, the trade left me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't capture any of these yen moves either. Feeling a little left out on that as well. You mentioned dollar pairs. What are you looking at with the dollar?
Surprisingly, I am looking for reversal on your dollar. Yes, it is currently bearish, as you mentioned earlier, but I just need a pop above 108.40, 60, like anything that can cross that high. And so that's kind of in preparation for the end of the debt ceiling negotiations. And if this continues lower, fine. But this week's right now looks like a very great small reversal on the 1 hour. So I'm almost ready to pop if euro pops.
I like that because with the, I pulled up my chart earlier with the euro and I've got it pulled up again now. And our charts look very, very similar. We've got that same level marked. And yeah, I mean, I would agree, right? The price action here is pretty bearish overall. However, to your point, if we get, it's fair to, a lot of people love to pay attention to stop losses, right? Where the retail trader stop loss perhaps could be. That's a big focus for a lot of people. Well, to your point there, around that 1.0860, if this level triggers, if it breaks that structure and this downtrend kind of comes to an abrupt end, I would agree. You have a sort of a zone to zone concept here of breaking out at this 1.085 level. If it could get above there, start hitting some stop losses and I guess beating up on the shorts a little bit, could take a run back up to that 1.089. And again, rinse and repeat. Can we break from there? Ivan, tell us a little bit about fundamentally what would give us this scenario. What would we need to see this week? We've got, of course, on Wednesday, we've got the Fed. Friday, we've got core PCE numbers. What would have to happen to paint this picture for us?
One would, of course, be core PCE coming in lower than expected. There can also be some more bearish comments from the Fed. There can also be the debt ceiling. I think there can also be I wasn't not necessarily fundamentally, but a more sentiment change on the dollar, though we have generally been bearish and we continue to be bearish. overall, because we are generally peaking interest rates either soon or later. So that's just undercurrent, I would argue. So what do I need to see? I just need technicals at this point, because there is a good enough deviation between the euro and the dollar in terms of monetary policy. They're going two different directions at this point, or future. That buy is the one that I can only do.
No, I love that. I love that point about monetary policy divergence. We've talked about this pretty often on the stream. Ivan and I go over this a lot. Is this concept of, like, when you look at two central banks, when we're talking about divergence, what we're talking about is a more hawkish or more dovish central bank. A quick example might be, for example, last week we talked about Japan versus the UK, right? Two very distinctly different central bank monetary policy outlooks. We have the UK and Japan, and what Ivan is talking about is the ECB remains relatively hawkish, where we're seeing some softening from the Fed. Now this week we'll have to get something that confirms that could perhaps be the fundamental catalyst to break out. A lot of retail traders, they don't really look at the fundamentals, and they wonder why charts break support and resistance sometimes. It's the fundamentals that punch through levels, right? If we're just trading purely technicals, then yeah, this level would probably just purely hold. But to Ivan's point, waiting for the fundamentals to prove right or prove out something that could cause breakouts, you know, it's like when you guys see huge news candles. Those are fundamental moves, and they don't care about support and resistance in the very short term. They can break right through a support level if news is a strong enough catalyst.
Don't forget to check out the links in the description if you want our broker recommendation, access to our free Discord, free EdgeFinder, or want to chat with us on Telegram. Remember, you can watch us live in the markets every morning starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we have lots more free trading tools and content available on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching.